Coming up today on Folks, a profile of Washington Hackett Smith & Company, a financial consulting firm owned and operated by three dynamic young people. An update on Baton Rouge nutritionist Barbara Dixon, and an exciting preview of an exhibit of outstanding Louisiana artists, all in today's edition of Folks. Hello everyone and welcome to Folks. I'm Sonya Masingale. Now in the 80s, more than ever, the acquisition and management of money is a subject of increasing importance for most of us. The world of finance is an exciting one, and until fairly recently, it was an all-white domain. Although you don't have to graduate from an Ivy League college to enter the financial arena, it certainly helps to get your foot in the door. Each of the three young people you're about to meet has a degree from either Harvard, Yale, or Princeton, and they are putting those degrees to good use. Washington Hackett & Smith are the founders of the first black-owned fiduciary firm in the country. They manage millions of dollars in pension funds for corporations, city and state governments, and individuals whose net worth exceeds $5 million. The company is located in New Orleans, Louisiana. They're young, smart, well-educated, and on their way to fame and fortune. Not as actors, doctors, or lawyers, but as Washington Hackett Smith & Company, a fiduciary firm. The partners of this firm are pioneers of a sort.
In college, I was pre-med my first year and a half. And as the story goes, I went home to see what it would be like to work in a doctor's atmosphere. I thought I was going to be a doctor from the time I was real young. And I worked in one of those medical clinics, abortion clinics, over a summer. And obviously, it was a bad experience for a 17-year-old.
Christian Washington is the man who had the vision to start this particular business venture. His decision to make a career for himself in finance came in a roundabout way.
When I got back, what had been my other avocation all the way through school was selling things. I sold cars, I sold stereo equipment, I sold Amway. I mean, I just sold things, and that's how I made money to go to school. So somewhere along the lines, I put those things together and said, well, maybe I should look at what I do best or what I do and enjoy doing. And I went back and I got into economics because it took a broad view of the world and how finance and the world interact. Frankly, we're one of the first, I would say there's less than 100 firms, period. That ranges from the ma and pop on the corner to a large firm like an SEI or even Merrill Lynch getting involved in it on a cursory basis. So, as I said, it's an underrepresented marketplace by our people, but it's also an untapped marketplace in the altogether, and that's why we're in it.
Does being a black firm help you or hurt you when you make your presentations?
In our case, it helps, and I make no bones about it. We're very targeted in our marketing. One of the things that we are a trailer to, our industry is trailing to, is the public finance industry or the municipal bond industry. Over the last 15 years or so, with the growth or rise in black public officials, black elected officials, and minority and women elected officials, there has been a heightened awareness and sensitivity to seeing minorities participate, or to use Tom Kane's words, to see minorities included through inclusion. And that's something that in public finance has been exploited quite well. Now the pension industry is starting to respond in the same way. And we use our minority status, our pioneering status, as a chip, if you will, as an advantage in the marketplace, especially early on. One of the keys to business success is finding a niche. And our niche is that, and being able to go to these areas where there is sensitivity already and respond to that with being professional and not a front or a mask for some other firm or what have you, but coming to the plate, being professional with good credentials, and it's worked well for us.
Washington Hackett & Smith is new to the fiduciary world. They're finding that experience comes quickly when you're handling millions of dollars.
The worst experience we found is that no matter what you do in any marketplace, no matter where you go, there are certain fundamental precursors that have to be in place before you can get business. And we went in, I won't name the client, but we went in one time on our own merits as a pretty new company with one client and 3 Ivy Leaguers, and did a winning presentation, an absolutely flawless presentation that was by all accounts, even by those who heard it, the best presentation they heard. However, since we had one account and less than 1 year in business, we obviously weren't named finalists in that situation. And it showed us that there is still a place for us to work smart, to joint venture at times with other firms that have more experience, where our political inroads as well as our professionalism can help that situation so that we can win. It's not just getting to the plate metaphorically, it's actually hitting a home run. And we got to the plate and hit a triple and then got thrown out at home. So that's probably the most negative experience, but we've turned it into a positive in that we learned from it.
To perform successfully as a team requires a high degree of confidence in each other's abilities, trust, and an intimate knowledge of each other's strengths, something Washington, Hackett, and Smith have in abundance.
It's interesting. The 3 of us are distinct personalities, and it helps because you need a worrier on the team, someone who's a point-in-time person who's considering the bottom line and the bills and the travel and the day-to-day inner workings of the business. And that's Toni. She's very in tune with every dime and every cent that comes in and goes out, and she's a good accounting type person. She has that kind of background, and she's also very, very good at point in time.
I probably am more of a worrier, but I think it works out very well because, I mean, I think somebody has to be very concerned about how we're going to pull the company together financially, how we're going to have the funds to be able to do the sort of marketing that my other 2 partners are, I think, much better at. And but to have a really, to be a very good marketer, you really have to think very clearly. You can't be worried about, you know, incidental things like how we're going to pay phone bills and pay salaries of sales assistants and things like that. I mean, and so I understand that there has to be someone that has to be concerned about that, but I don't think it's something that everybody has to be concerned about.
Toni Hackett was the second member of the team. True to her description as the worrier of the group, she handles most of the logistical concerns for the firm.
I'm the person that's sort of in the middle. I knew both of the parties separately and had worked with both of them separately. And when I met Chris and he talked about the business idea that he had, and I immediately thought, gosh, you know, if all 3 of us, I was thinking of Peppa, if all 3 of us could come together, I really thought it would make a very good trio. So neither of them really had known each other, but I felt that there were, it really would be a good mix.
How do you sell your services?
Well, it's really just, you know, a combination of things. Some things, in some way, we really, the business concept and the historical nature of the business sells itself, and that is because we are the first and only minority-owned firm in the country that provides the services we provide, which is pension consulting. So I think that there's an automatic niche there. You know, the people that are looking for qualified minority firms to do what we do, well, we're the only ones that are out there. So I think that as long as we just increase the awareness level of the marketplace about our company, I think that automatically gets us some business. And then we do some directed marketing, looking at those target cities where we perceive a little bit easier entry for minority firms, and we target them and we talk to the public officials or the city councilmen or the treasurers or the governor's offices to tell them about our services and let them know that we want to come in and talk to them and meet with them and talk about how we can be of service to the people in their state or their city or the municipality or school district or whatever.
Why would I, as owner of a company worth $5 million or more, be interested in the services of Washington, Hackett,
Well,
and
Sonya,
Smith?
that's a very good question, because it's precisely what we're faced with when we go up against established consulting firms. I think what has to be considered is the fact that as our support service, we use a group out of San Francisco called Callan Associates, which is recognized as the market leader in providing consulting firms, those who are advising public and corporate pension funds. They are recognized as absolutely the market leader in providing the backup support work necessary. That's one reason. The second reason is that I personally think that the combination of my partners and myself, we provide a cross-section of personalities and strengths which, quite frankly, is second to none.
Valerian Butler-Smith, who is described by his partners as the formal member of the firm, has visionary ideas about risk-taking.
One of the most outstanding things about young black people, young bright black people, is that we have for so long been seduced by the lure and the glamour and the money of the professions that we have overlooked or not been willing to take the plunge into something entrepreneurial. In my own family, they became doctors for 2 or 3 generations, but the courage I don't feel is there with my young peers. There is a precedent with me. At the end of the 19th century, my great-grandfather, Holbrook Hundley, was a successful entrepreneur in West Virginia and the Eastern Seaboard, but after that we got cold feet, and the profession seemed safe. I mean, there was really hell to pay, so to speak, when I announced that I would be going into finance as opposed to one of the professions. But I think the statistics bear out that not only do we need more blacks in the mainstream of finance and banking, but that is an area which absolutely promises greater return on effort and intelligence than I think at this point the professions do. And that's something that I try to share with young people.
Smith is also realistic about the pros and cons of owning his own business.
The first thing that comes to mind, Sonya, is it is a potential drawback to some people to have to adjust their style of living in deference to future goals. The second thing is the responsibility of being directly involved with everything that goes on. When you have your own business, there is no major corporate structure to shield your mistakes, to hide behind if there is something which has not gone properly or according to plan. Every letter, every proposal, every phone call emanating from your firm is directly representative of you. That is a tremendous responsibility for some people. Some people are more comfortable in an environment whereby they have limited responsibility and a steady check. That is not me, and I don't think it's my partners. The pluses, as I say, are endless. First, there is economic self-determination, the ability to have everything that you do directly related to how well you do financially. Then there is the ability to make a contribution to the development of a greater presence in the black economic community and the economic community of this country in general.
You've been described by one of your partners as the formal member of the group. What's your reaction to that delineation of your personality?
My first reaction would be that it's absolutely true. My second reaction is that it would be silly to argue against it. I feel that having seen black entrepreneurs, black firms, from the time I was a young boy, I've seen them come onto the marketplace and pass off the stage almost as quickly as they come. One common thread running through all of them was a certain lack of organization, a certain lack of discipline. I'm certainly not saying that that is congenital to minority-owned firms, but it was something that I noticed. there was a certain lack of tightness, of message, of presentation, of organization that made a very strong impact on me. And I knew that I would end up with my own firm, and one thing that I promised myself I would do is to at least present the picture of strength, of direction, of organization, of exactness, even if we are undirected, disorganized, and searching for capital.
Knowing business people the way I do, they usually have a 10-year plan, a 20-year plan, a 30-year plan. Where do you plan to be 10 years from now?
We want to see the company become a household name. Down the line, when you're thinking of fiduciary consulting or any kind of management consulting, you'll think of us. We have a thought in mind of seeing other things happen to promote minorities in our business. We want to see minorities come together to form investment companies and manage money as consortiums, and we'd like to do that as a mutual fund type idea or some idea like that. And so down the line, it would not surprise me if Washington Hackett Smith and Company was also known as a prime mover of money, a manager of money down the line.
I've learned from my partners, not worrying and panic does not help, but just kind of maybe prayer and clear thinking kind of gets us through.
10 years down the line, I see a firm which is national and international in scope. I see a firm which provides the finest, absolutely, advisory services to the nation's and the world's largest retirement funds. This represents an area which is practically the last undiscovered frontier. We have blacks in banking. We have blacks in powerful law firms in New York and San Francisco and Chicago. We have black investment banks. But to tap the billions and billions of dollars in American retirement funds that regular working people are paying in on a regular basis every year, to tap that tremendous pool of funds is something which absolutely has not been done, I should say. Our goal, my particular goal, I should say, in 10 years would be to have those funds serviced by Washington Hackett Smith and Company. Because we can do it, the opportunity is there, and shortly thereafter, probably a big horse farm in Virginia.
Valerian Butler-Smith is the son of Dr. Valerian Smith, who composed and performed Everybody's Just Folks, the song that we used as the folks theme for several years. Now on to our next feature. About 3 years ago, we profiled Barbara Dixon, a Baton Rouge nutritionist who was making quite a name for herself locally. Now people all over the country are hearing about her, and we like to keep up with those people who become a part of the folks family. So here's an update.
And all of a sudden, I think in the 70s, in the early 70s, people did begin to ask questions. And we began to get them in the media, and with very few dietitians with an expertise in television, it became whoever's brave enough to do this. So
when we last saw Barbara Dixon, she was busy with her private nutrition practice combined with her husband's medical clinic and her po' boy restaurant, where she and her husband combined traditional Louisiana cooking with health foods. 3 years later, she and her husband are out of the restaurant business, but she has entered a whole new phase of her career, videotapes for special diets.
There may be several reasons why your doctor has prescribed a low-salt or sodium-restricted diet for you. One of the common reasons is high blood pressure or hypertension. When high blood pressure is not controlled, it can lead to stroke, heart disease, or kidney disease. However, controlling your weight, getting adequate exercise, and eating a balanced diet can help you control high blood pressure and aid in preventing its complications. One of the first steps toward improving your diet is to reduce or avoid the amount of salt or sodium you eat. Therefore, your doctor has prescribed a special diet designed to help you reduce your intake of salt and sodium.
Through her private practice, local television appearances, and instructional videos, Dixon is reaching a larger segment of the population to help them learn about nutrition. It seems as if she has a special mission to dispense the good news about nutrition and health.
Definitely. I have felt this way for years. I have felt that nutrition, even before it became popular, in fact, when I became involved, it was not popular at all. Most dietitians only talked about the basic 4 food groups. People considered nutrition very boring. And so whenever a nutritionist was asked to come speak to a school or for a group, it was met with negativity rather than positiveness. And what I have done, I felt, is added some positiveness to it. But in addition to that, I have brought nutrition to masses of people who otherwise maybe can't afford to go to a nutritionist or learn more about nutrition from a healthcare professional. I think it's going to be my mission to really carry it not only in the United States but outside the United States, because although we are sophisticated in our own way and we're learning a lot publicly about nutrition, it's a lot of other countries that really have more to learn than we do.
As you can see, Dixon's knowledge and likable personality are enlarging her audience even more. Here we see one of her many appearances on the nationally syndicated Hour magazine.
Right? First of all, he has the right idea. You're supposed to eat very light when you're traveling. And in fact, they're recommended high carbohydrate foods. Also, no alcohol. So I know you haven't been drinking.
Yeah.
But for those of us who are on the run all the time, that
How do you
is
know that, by the way?
Working, because you told me.
Oh, he told you. That's not fair.
However, you know, if we're busy people and we're going to and fro, we may not have a chance to sit down and eat a complete meal. And that when we think of snacking, we think it's unhealthy to snack. But in fact, snacking is not unhealthy, providing you choose quality foods. So what I have today are some alternatives to traditional snacking and traditional vending machines. How about the sea vegetable chips?
It seems that Barbara Dixon has achieved more than the average nutritionist, but that's not enough for her. We can expect to hear a lot more from Barbara Dixon in the future.
More videotapes. I think that more national television exposure. In the last year, I've become involved with Hour magazine, and I've thoroughly enjoyed doing that. National television, of course, gives you much more exposure, of course, than local television, although it takes local television to really get you started and really give you the tools to go nationally. But I foresee more national shows. In fact, I foresee my own show, my own nationally syndicated show. And I'm working towards that now. I see a nationally syndicated health show, and done a little bit different from the ones that are on. I think ultimately, though, I probably would like to have my own health food, fast food chain that's very different from what we see today, where you can go to a drive-up window and you can get healthy foods that you don't have to worry about whether salt is added or too much fat, etc. I see that down the line, though. But I think ultimately somebody has to be responsible for spreading nutrition in a number of ways, and I see myself as doing it.
Over the years on Folks, we've profiled a number of Louisiana artists and the work they produced. But the artist's life is often a lonely one, full of long hours, hard work, always seeking acceptance and recognition. Well, something special is happening for the arts in Louisiana, something that brings recognition to a special group of artists. The Masur Museum in Monroe is currently displaying works by the 22 artists who have been awarded Louisiana Division of the Arts fellowships since the program began in 1980. These fellowships give the artists freedom to create without financial burden. This special exhibition at the Masur Museum opened recently, and producer Mark Sindler, along with David Jones and Al Godoy, captured the sights and sounds of A Tribute to Excellence.
This exhibition is important for many reasons. Number one is an opportunity to promote Louisiana's finest talents. And number two, it gives us an opportunity to show works by a lot of the southern artists up in the northeastern part of the state. It's also very important to the museum. Many people in the South do not realize that we even exist up in the northern part of the state. So we feel it's a privilege for us to be able to host a show of this caliber. And it gives us an opportunity to show off a little bit of what we have in our area.
This exhibit at the Masur Museum is very important not only for the individuals represented here in the collection, but also for the Division of the Arts, the State Arts Council, and the state of Louisiana. It's really the first time that we have taken a retrospective look at those individuals in a given discipline that we have identified as having outstanding potential and being of a level of quality that we would like to recognize them as representing Louisiana's best.
There's a number of very good artists working in the state of Louisiana. I guess to see them all in one place is one thing. We see their work sort of spread out all over the state and other galleries. I think to see it all concentrated in one particular spot is very, very impressive.
I was excited about the idea of showing with a lot of people that you personally respect and admire, and the opportunity to meet them personally and talk about their work or your work, whatever.
A few people in it are people who I've known for a while and really admire their work, and I'm flattered to be showing with them.
It seems on the surface that it'd be such a hodgepodge of people, and yet when you actually get the show together, it's very cohesive, and I think that what tends to come about is a certain kind of sound vain, but a certain strength and a certain sense of character to the work that gives it a very strong thread of continuity.
I think there's a lot of talent in Louisiana, and I think that it's often overlooked, and I think it's time that that the state starts supporting their local artists.
As a working artist myself, I realize the great benefits that the fellowship recipients receive by having this funding. It's very important for a working artist to be able to spend time on his craft, and so often we do not have the time or the funds to be able to do this. This money will help them in their art supplies, and in some cases it may even be just paying the rent so that they can continue working in their studios.
You can't stop nourishing your children. Our artists are not only our children, but sometimes our prophets, because they are really sharing their visions of us, of where we are, and where we hope we'll be in the future.
A tribute to excellence runs through November 20th at the Masur Museum, located at 1400 South Grand in Monroe. It's also important to note that November 13th through 19th is National Arts Week. We urge you to support your local artists. And that's our program for this week. We'll see you next week for another edition of Folks. Bye-bye.